In the year 2000, the remnants of the former Rover Group were purchased by the Phoenix Consortium, forming the last wholly owned British mass-market automaker. But with this came several challenges. Old outdated models and a poor image of the Rover marque meant MG Rover had an uphill battle. But then, in 2001, MG Rover made a decision that would become one of the best they ever made, creating MGs for the new millennium. Enter the Z cars, the ZS, ZR and ZT, and how they saved MG Rover from oblivion. Hello everybody and welcome to this video. If you're not subscribed already, please make sure to do so. It really does help me out and you get to see more of this. Let me know what you'd like me to cover next. Drop a like on the video and let me know your Z car memories. Do you have any memories of owning them, working on them, or even bad memories of bad experiences? Let me know in the comments. Do you think the MG Z cars helped MG Rover stay afloat, or were they just another supplementary product in their range of cars? Now, this is an incredible story of grit and determination and just really shows how much determination the Longbridge teams, MG Rover and those guys as a whole had to make this a success. So, without further delay, let's get into the world of the Z cars. In March 2000, after much back and forth in the media, the giant BMW Group confirmed rumours that it was cutting ties with Rover Group, which it acquired 6 years earlier. This, though, was no ordinary split. This was a painful divorce. A divorce in which Rover Group lost out, with BMW taking the newly refitted Cowley assembly plant and the Mini R50 project, which after the Rover 75's botched launch at the hands of BMW's chairman was its last hope. Land Rover would be sold to Ford with the Gaydon Design and Engineering Centre, which severely diminished the new Rover's ability to develop new models. By April, prospects were looking grim for Rover cars, with the main bidder Alchemy and Partners pulling out of negotiations to acquire the remains of Rover Group. This left the Phoenix Consortium as the sole remaining party interested in the business. The Phoenix 4 were more ambitious in their plans. They wanted to keep Longbridge running at full capacity, whereas Alchemy wanted to reduce production to 100,000 units per year of the MG sports car range. The Phoenix Consortium went on to acquire the remnants of Rover Group, forming MG Rover in 2000 for a nominal £10 with a £500 million dowry from BMW. The days of this acquisition were celebrated. Rover and MG, as well as some of the legacy car marques, were now under British ownership once again. This was also celebrated as a new era for the British car industry. But there was a problem. With the Rover 200 and 400 originally released in 1995, now branded as the 25 and 45, they reached their sales peak in early 2000. MG Rover knew they couldn't rely on this alone, and if sales faltered too much, the £500 million cash for the new models would dwindle fast. The final few years, though, of the BMW era were interesting to say the least, with Rover creating several special projects to hot up their current range. An example of this was a car based on the 1997 Rover 200VI, which was a collaboration with Janspeed. This car featured 25 front wings and bumpers and was finished in dark red with silver, similar to the Rover BRM, with one main difference. The badge supposedly featured the MG octagon. The future of this model was unknown, but it did confirm there was a desire within Rover Group to utilise the MG nameplate once again on a souped-up version of their own cars. With MG's origins in the 1920s, the marque was represented by both saloons and sports cars, so this was in line with MG's legacy. Back in 2000, the seeds sown by this car began to sprout. BMW insisted that Rover had a performance variant as well as many insiders at the company. This led to the team at Longbridge exploring this further. The stars were aligning for MG's comeback, but not quite yet. MG Rover didn't know what the new MG models would be. When Rob Aldecker joined the company as the project development director, he became a pivotal figure in the creation of this new line. Speaking with Nick Stevenson, one of MG Rover's directors, Rob essentially kicked off the initial stages, trying to define what the characteristics of the new MGs would be. They decided on 4 core values: exhilaration, bold, raw and thoroughbred. There was a problem, however: a lack of a design studio. This led MG Rover Group to hire the design studio of RDS Automotive to develop the Rover 25 based MG hatch, and another firm, Design Research Associates, to develop the 45 and 75 based cars. Rob Aldecker would take an active role in setting the design remit for the Z cars, with Peter Stevens leading the design programme, along with David Arbuckle and Kevin Spindler being his accomplished chief designers. At this point, the project codes were assigned: X10 for the MG ZT, X20 for the MG ZS, and X30 for the MG ZR, and a new addition, the X11 for the ZT Tourer. Meanwhile, Jules Carter and his chassis development team carried out the tuning of the ride, steering, brakes and handling. This resulted in several modifications. The ZT received solid front and rear subframe mounts to give more control and add feel to the steering, with anti-roll bar thickness increased and 70% stiffer springs all round. The ZR had its tie bars shortened to increase sharpness in the steering, with the ZS including radius arms swapped from one side to the other to modify the top to bottom angle of the steering axis and suspension components as they met the wheel, with stiffer springs and anti-roll bars all round the range. The styling created by the team was consistent and set the tone for the range. All of the cars had new front and rear bumpers, grills, spoilers, and with the ZT it even had bespoke indicators. The cars were nearly complete. Road testing then kicked off at several locations: Myra and the Millbrook Proving Ground, as well as some challenging roads in Wales. The cars were then taken to Sweden for a winter test. And then, after months of speculation by the media, on the 23rd of November 2000, MG Rover Group announced the new MG models, with the confirmation that MG as a brand were going on to participate in Le Mans 2001. A few months later, on the 27th of February 2001, the lid was lifted on the Z car range with the following models: the MG ZR, the tuned 25, offered in a 1.4, 1.6 and 1.8 K series with a VVC option and an L series diesel. The MG ZS, offered with the 1.4, 1.6 and 1.8 K series with the KV6 and L series diesel. The MG ZT with 3 petrol engines, the 1.8K series, 1.8K series turbo and the KV6 to complete the range. These cars would be offered in 3 different trim levels: Entry being the showroom specification cars, Core being the flagship performance variants, and Ultimate being the very high performance derivatives, with an extreme version to follow for each. All 3 cars of this new range would also have their own closely related motorsport versions. The MG ZR was destined for rallying as the EX258. The MG ZS was assigned to the British Touring Car Championship as the EX259. The dream for the ZT though was much bigger, for it to enter the DTM race series. All was going well, the racing programmes, the fanfare and the sales too, which supplemented the company's income, keeping it going through its early years. But then, the 2003 model year happened, and that's when the Z range went atomic. Famous institution Atomic Kitten collaborated with MG to create the Atomics special editions. Only 500 examples of the ZR105 and ZS120 Atomics models were built. But, girl groups aside, September of 2003 is where the magic really happened. In collaboration with ProDrive, MG produced the 4.6 litre Ford modular V8 powered ZT260, a rear-wheel drive super saloon producing 260 brake horsepower. There was no indication though of when the ZT385 promised earlier by MG Rover would be released, with this speculated to be late 2005. In 2004 the final facelifts would occur, with the ZT, ZS and ZR getting styling improvements to refresh the models. Sadly though, the ZS and ZR were starting to show their age. Yes, they had been redeveloped, but they were based on 9-year-old platforms, and with the state of MG Rover's finances, there was no money to develop the models further. In spite of this though, the ZR was somewhat of a revelation. In May of 2004, the company revealed the concept ZRX, an extreme version of the ZR, and later that year, with the ZR maintaining its dominance in sales, it became MG Rover's most successful model. To celebrate this, in the new year of 2005, MG Rover released the trophy editions, but there was no hiding the cracks that were beginning to show at the Longbridge car giant. After months of trying to find suitable backing for a new model, MG Rover turned to NAC, a Chinese car firm, but at the last moment the deal fell through, with MG Rover out-negotiated by the state-backed firm. NAC had acquired the rights to several of MG Rover's designs earlier, leaving the ailing MG Rover with nothing left to bargain with. As a result of this, MG Rover Group collapsed in April of 2005 with the loss of thousands of jobs, both directly and indirectly. The story of the Z cars is one of ambition and determination. The teams that created these cars will live on in legend as the people who pushed MG into the new millennium. Today, of course, things have changed. MG is now owned by SAIC, a state-backed Chinese car firm, but these old Z models still live on as a piece of noughties Britain loved by many. In my opinion, these were a real saving grace for MG Rover, and let me know your opinion as well below. These cars were a lot more than what people made them out to be. The ZR at one point was apparently the most successful hot hatch in Britain during its best years. So if that's not a testament to how good these cars were, I don't know what is. These cars were a more cohesive model range as well than the 25, 45 and 75, with the 75 being so phenomenal above the 45 and 25, they kind of sort of offset it in a weird way. I do believe those two are great cars, but they're just nowhere near the 75's level. These re-engineered cars, and they were really re-engineered and restyled, there weren't, as many people like to say, reheated 25s, 45s and 75s. These cars had some genuine engineering, genuine thought and testing, design work put into them. And what really does get a bit lost in translation is that work that went on. They weren't simply bumper swapped. They were actually really well thought of. A proper brand was sort of conceived for these cars. Those core values I mentioned earlier. These cars really did have their own identity, and they weren't simply reheated versions of old cars, which is a common misconception by a lot of people. Now, this video has been an absolute joy to research, record, and write, so I just thought I'd leave that little anecdote in. And, of course, a big shout out to Keith Adams, AR Online, the team at AR Online, and all these fantastic sources of information. Another shout out I'd like to mention is the MG Car Club and Craig Cheetham, who has written some incredible books, but one of which is the MGZ cars. This isn't a sponsorship, it's just recognising some really, really fantastic work. If you're interested in something to read, the MGZ Cars book is probably one of the best out there on this topic. Now, without further waffling, thank you for watching, keep watching and remember to subscribe for more of this, and I'll see you in the next one.